Hi guys, it's Debbie and I've just come back home from the cinema where, as you can tell from my t-shirt, I just watched Dumbo. And I cried multiple times. Dumbo is the remake of a Disney animated film which is nearly 80 years old and tells the story of a baby elephant born on the grounds of a circus and mocked because of his appearance. He was supposed to be the star of the circus show with his mother, but his very large ears made him the laughingstock of audiences and of fellow circus members. One event leads to another and he is eventually separated from his mother, a fact which sparks a whole story, a story in which a family, biological family and circus crew family, try to help little Dumbo while dealing with the narrow-mindedness and greed of some other characters. I love Dumbo because it was just pure fun and magic. I've spoken about this feeling before when reviewing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. These are two completely different films, but which join the trend of fulfilling a growing need amongst audiences, that of wholesomeness. The best example of this would be the Paddington films. Simple, fun, magical, wholesome. They teach a lesson, they are still a little cheeky with themes adults can relate to. These films are not trying to be darker just because the trend is to be darker. And I think that's the magic of Disney. I'm not a huge fan of Disney. I enjoy their films, but I'm not one of those people who believe in the magic, who dream of going to Disneyland or collect all the items, or are beyond excited for a new Disney trailer. But if these stories are being talked about nearly a century later enthusiastically, then Disney must be doing something right. And I think that it is the happiness, something we always need regardless of the decade of the circumstances. We all know, for example, Snow White, right? Well, the film came out even before the Second World War broke out, and we're still enthusiastically speaking about it today, and now Disney has scheduled a live-action remake of it, which I'm sure will have audiences crowding the cinemas. And Dumbo definitely fits in the box of wholesome. Dumbo is not my genre of movie. The chances of you finding me eating pizza while watching Seven or Silence of the Lambs are way higher. But as I always think, a film can be good regardless of the genre, and Dumbo didn't have to be anything more than what it is. Dumbo is nothing more than a story about being proud of who you are, of doing the right thing, of respecting others, of believing in yourself. It didn't have any side stories, it didn't drag out the plot for too long with narrative fillers. It was simple and to the point. Apparently director Tim Burton himself has described the film as simple, and so also the score, created by Danny Elfman, one of Burton's longtime collaborators, was kept simple. One of the best people to deliver a story focusing on being appreciative of being unique was actually Tim Burton, who in the past was often associated to his darker works like Nightmare Before Christmas, Edward Scissorhands, Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, and his films in general have often been lumped under the category of just weird. But when you look at his films, which I adore, many of them are actually stories of outcasts, of undesirables, but who just want to be loved like you and me. I think that in general the key word today is magic and wonder, and part of it was achieved through the cinematography and the effects, which were beyond amazing. The cinematographer is Ben Davis, a name you may never have heard of, but who worked on films with a strong visual impact such as Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, recently Captain Marvel, and in Dumbo the biggest achievement, one of the main points of the film, was delivering an amazing experience. Similar to what we would have felt as children walking into a circus or into a theatre. Watching this film, we felt like the members of the audience that were about to be amazed by the wonders on show. There is even one scene in which Dumbo too can't contain his joy and wonder upon seeing his fellow crew members performing. When I actually saw the first images of Dumbo a while back, I wasn't particularly interested. They didn't really impress me. I think it's because Dumbo looked kind of off in those pictures, if you see what I mean. He looked a bit like a badly cut out image. This is because we didn't have any trailers. The audiences were still getting used to this live action concept, and the only images that were available were these cut-out pics of him against a plain background. So there was no reference, there was no movement, not even a shadow to create some depth. But then on screen, Dumbo's animation was absolutely astounding. The detailing in this film is mind-blowing. I can get very picky about effects, but throughout the whole film, it was nearly impossible to actually tell Dumbo from a real elephant, except for the exaggerations to make him more of a character, such as his eyes, his way of moving, which was more human, in addition to the way everything on screen looked slightly surreal. But overall, that's just how good the effects were. Every crack on his skin, every movement of his ears, it was perfectly coordinated. The characters surrounding Dumbo didn't really need to give a particular emotional depth, as most of their storylines were there to aid the main one of Dumbo. But they were still really fun, and being part of a circus crew, they each had their own quirky features. Danny DeVito was the grumpy old circus owner, but who deep down loved his crew. Colin Farrell was the wannabe tough dad, but who still has a lot to learn from his children. Evergreen just looked like she had stepped off the most exotic and astounding show. And then all the jugglers, strongest men, mermaid impersonators, snake enchanters, and so on. So all in all, I would absolutely recommend watching Dumbo, whether you have seen the 1941 film or not. What do you think about Dumbo? Let me know if you've seen it and what you thought about it, or what you're expecting if you haven't seen it yet. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.